Okay, being recorded in progress. Okay, yay. Okay, so I'm going to be recording this session and kind of anything we talk about, and then I'm going to be sending that to Dr. Decker so she can put it up on your Canvas site, so that way if you have questions, you want to come back and reference it later, or for those of your classmates who couldn't join this live WebEx at this time, I can go back and view that. Couple of things with WebEx. I think most of you have already done this, but if you haven't, can you mute your mic? One of the reasons we ask students to mute their mics or people in meetings is because it kind of gives feedback quite a bit that it picks up on if you're just shuffling papers or typing or if anything's going on in your background kind of deal. It also, WebEx bounces the camera view to whoever is speaking or was speaking last, and so if someone's doing a screen share and then someone else starts talking, it bounces the camera away from the screen share, and so if you mute your mic, that doesn't accidentally happen. Let me share my screen so I can show y'all what this looks like. Don't want you to do that. Okay, so coming back with this, you see with your WebEx meeting, and let me get out of my email because you probably don't want to see that. You have that private chat option that's kind of when you mouse over your screen where your mute mic is. So you have that chat option, so if y'all have questions getting this, please feel free to either say, I have a question, and I can pause and let you unmute your mic and ask your question, or you could just type your question into the chat there. And so that way everybody can see the chat. It's not just me, definitely. So if you have questions or you want to ask a question, do put that in the chat. Any questions so far? Are we all good? Okay. Well, looking at library stuff, so like everything else on campus, the library has gone virtual. I'm going to put that up there on the top screen. So library website, we are offering reference help. So if you're still looking for information in the library, you're not sure where to go, or you're struggling to find the information you need, we are offering reference services. As of today and right now, the library is physically open 8 to 5 if you need to come to campus, but we are offering virtual reference services from 8 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. You can access most of that from the library homepage here, which you get to by going to Quick Links, down to Library, takes you here. And so you do, if you scroll down here, you kind of get these big 2 messages on how to, our hours and stuff like that, but if you scroll down, you have this chat box down here on the bottom right, and so anytime that says available, there is a librarian staffing that and ready to take your questions that way. We do also have a reference desk WebEx room, so anytime from 8 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, we're just regularly staffing that. You have someone sitting there waiting for someone to pop in, so if you want to video chat with us, sometimes reference help is better in person. It's better when we can have a live conversation with you that's not via text, so sometimes WebEx might be a good option. You can also always email us, and so if you go to this Ask a Librarian link over here on the right, you get our email address here. It's just repdesk@uncp.edu, or you can use this form on this page as well. So lots of ways to contact us. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Just because campus has been thrown into chaos and everything's moved to online, librarians are still here. We still want to help you. You're not bothering us with your questions. Don't hesitate to ask those as you go. Other important things kind of going on at the moment. I think that kind of cuts my intro to the library pretty short. So yeah, so how to get in touch with those is the biggest thing. We do have those 8 in the morning to 10 o'clock hours for that reference services. Don't hesitate to use that. So for this paper, y'all have your paper topics, yes? Most of you? They should? Yes? Okay, give me that chat. Okay, so what do I do? How do I get to the chat? Oh, turn to meeting. There we go. I need my chat. Okay, so in the chat, why don't y'all give me some examples of your paper topics? What are y'all thinking of writing about? That way I can use actual examples instead of coming up with my generic ones. So what are y'all thinking of writing for your paper research? Media effect of 2016 election? Ooh, I like that one. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, looking kind of at science and music, history of music therapy. Okay. Nurse, patient, family. What makes a book successful? Okay. Okay. All right, Tegan, you're going to have interesting stuff to read this semester. Okay, so one of the most difficult things, TJ improvements being made technology in this field now. Okay. Y'all have a lot of kind of varied topics going on. I love it. So one of the things that we find students struggle with the most when they're researching, that when students come to the reference desk, sometimes it's because they don't know where to find the information, they don't know how to use library resources, but about 50% of the time, their problem isn't that they don't know how to use library resources, it's how they're searching within them. And one of the biggest things for that can be keywords. And so looking at what your keyword topics are, so hopefully by now, I do hope y'all know, if you don't know before, you would know now, that you shouldn't type your entire question into a library database. We do that with Google sometimes. I still do that as a librarian. I won't admit that to my colleagues maybe, but that you type in, okay, how long do I bake something for, or I think I was Googling how to make baking powder out of baking soda this weekend kind of deal. So you type in your whole question. But when using library resources, you want to look at your research topic, look at your question that you're asking, and pick out the main ideas. So, for example, you're looking the student from Elizabeth that's looking at pregnancy and infertility on mental health. So really looking at the effects of pregnancy, specifically infertility with pregnancy, because you got two kind of dovetail topics there. Its effects on mental health. So using that. So you kind of have your three key concepts, keywords, main ideas of this topic. If you're looking at pregnancy, specifically infertility, and its effect on mental health. So you might kind of want to break this down. So starting with mental health, what might be some ways we think about this? So you might be talking about mental health. Another alternative keyword or synonym for that would be psychology. So sometimes we're looking for what are synonyms for this. Specifically, with pregnancy, you're talking about women, right? Typically, if we're talking about mental health and infertility, we are talking about men's mental health in general, although that could be an interesting topic of helping your spouse or your partner through infertility issues, that men would definitely be affected by that. But if you're talking about pregnancy and its effect on mental health in terms of women, what might be another keyword for women? Comment section, go. What would be another synonym for women? Female, thank you. Yeah, so every now and then I kind of ask that question and students give me this deer in headlights look, like I'm trying to trick you. Sometimes we're looking for very direct one-for-one synonyms of women, female, could also say girl within that. We know that the words woman, female, and girl could all be used to describe me. The database cannot pick that up always. When you're searching within library resources, it cannot always equate that woman and female mean the same thing. It also sometimes has difficulty differentiating between singular and plural. So woman versus women versus females, male versus girls. So sometimes you need to look at a singular versus a plural keyword and looking at this, that you're going to get different things with that. Some databases, excuse me, I just have allergies, I swear. Some databases will tie those together, other times they won't. So it's often a good idea to try and break apart and try to search with women and infertility versus female and infertility. You're going to get different things come up, but both things that come up could be equally valuable. So play around with your keywords this way of looking at what is a direct one-for-one synonym for this? What will be an alternative term for it? Other times you want to consider what would be a more academic term for something. If we are saying what you're really looking at with infertility effect on mental health, I'm assuming, is a woman's inability to get pregnant and that effect on her mental health and her mental psyche and her emotions and her thought process with this. And so sometimes people, you could type in the inability to get pregnant. And so you can use phrases as a keyword, but the more official academic term for that would be infertility. And so you kind of already picked up on that academic term. Sometimes, though, we want to look at what is the common everyday vernacular for something versus what is the very academic term for it. Is there a more formal, scholarly kind of word for this? Is there a brand name versus generic name, especially if anyone's looking at prescription drugs or something like that? I once had a student come looking for information on the use of heroin in end-of-life treatment, and he wasn't finding any information on that. We had to play around with his keywords, and as soon as we changed out the word heroin for its chemical name, which is diamorphine, that's when we started seeing results in the research, because the researchers, all of these scholars working at universities and in research institutes and working within the medical field, were using the term diamorphine, whereas the common everyday term that we would know it as is heroin. So look at, is there that academic term, is there an official term for something? With that, kind of consider those things. If you don't know what the keyword or what the synonym for a keyword is, Google it. Definitely look that up. So for that example of that student who is looking for heroin use in end-of-life treatment, I do not know what the chemical name of heroin is off the top of my head. I'm not ashamed to admit that I'm not a walking dictionary. So if you don't know what a synonym is, or your mind blanks, that you're saying, what is a synonym for female, and your brain goes completely blank, that happens to all of us, definitely Google that. And so I will admit that when I went to Google and typed in chemical name for heroin, all right, you get this very fancy, like, chemical breakdown. That's not what I was wanting to put into the search engine. But really, where I got this is Wikipedia. So I'm willing to bet most of you throughout your high school and your academic career have been told you cannot use Wikipedia in your research. And the biggest reason I've heard for that is that it's not credible because anyone can edit it, so it can be wrong information. That is slightly true. Reality is, though, everybody uses Wikipedia in just about their everyday life. Any time you Google something, it is the first thing that comes up on Google searches. We all accept it as true, and so even I do this, even your professor does this, and so in terms of our daily life, we put it and use it for our general knowledge bank. That is because Wikipedia as a company, here is my librarian opinion on this, Wikipedia as a company wants to be correct. They are very much so putting their reputation on the line of that they are offering good information, and they want to be correct. If you are caught putting bad information or willfully putting wrong information into a Wikipedia article, they will block you, they will shut down your account, you are banned. They also are aware that there are some articles in Wikipedia that are likely to be vandalized and to have false information put out there with malicious intent. So, for example, Barack Obama's Wikipedia page. There are only a very small number of people, all of which who are employed by Wikipedia, who can edit that page. They're not opening this up to the public to be able to add information about Barack Obama's life because he was such a controversial figure, the first African-American president that is likely to be vandalized and have bad information put out there. So Wikipedia as a company wants to be correct. My problem with using Wikipedia as a research tool is that it's an encyclopedia. It is an encyclopedia just like Britannica World Book, and it's offering you information at an encyclopedia level. Encyclopedias are considered what librarians call tertiary sources. So you have this idea of primary sources, which is the original source for information. So it's things like letters, diaries, videos of an event, works of art and literature, that is the original source of where information is created. Most of your research so is coming from secondary sources, where people are looking at these primary sources and then talking about them and analyzing that. Tertiary sources, so encyclopedias, take all of the information on a topic and are then going to summarize it at a very broad, overarching level. If there is a Wikipedia article or an encyclopedia article on it, you have a lot of research available to you at the primary and secondary source level. And thank you, Tegan. So we, as your professors, want you to use that primary and secondary source information. So we don't want you even to cite published encyclopedias typically. However, in terms of adding to your general knowledge bank, Wikipedia is great for that because it's written at a level you're going to understand. It's very easy to use. I love that it links to other resources. So if you are kind of unsure about your topic, you're not sure what your keywords should be, you're not sure about the issues, you haven't really fleshed this out, browsing Wikipedia could be a good way to brainstorm. And so it could then give you these some of these keywords and academic terms that you could toss in to your keyword list. So does that make sense? General knowledge is yay. It helps you think. If I had to go cite what was the chemical name of heroin, I would have needed to look up an official published drug dictionary and been able to cite that. We want something academic. But in terms of just getting keywords that can lead you to other resources, Wikipedia, encyclopedias can be great for that. I definitely encourage you to browse them, that it just goes into your general knowledge. Sometimes you have to know a little bit about your topic before you can actually find academic and scholarly resources. So Wikipedia can be good for that. And for the people who just joined, if you're having questions, we have this chat open within the WebEx, and so you can ask questions there. You can say, I have a question, and that way we can turn the mic over to you. So what might be some other, so playing around with this of infertility, inability to get pregnant. Other times we might want to break down this topic of, you're looking at this overarching idea of infertility. Well, what does that mean? What is it that makes people infertile? You might be tying this specifically to different physical conditions. So I think one thing I know off the top of my head is this idea of PCOS. Have any of you heard of that? Possibly. PCOS also is polycystic syndrome. This is something that's very common with lots of women, that they get cysts on their ovaries and it messes with their hormones and it makes them very, very difficult to get pregnant. And so a lot of women who have problems with infertility have PCOS. You're seeing, so when you're searching with this, if you have a very common acronym, anytime I have ever heard or seen PCOS talked about, they're using this acronym. Search the acronym, but also break it out. So if you're looking at PTSD, we want to search PTSD, but you're going to get different results if you search post-traumatic stress disorder. So if you're using a very common acronym, break it out into what the actual term is and search for that as well. So you could be looking at what are the causes of infertility, sort of deal, and let's spell things correctly. So kind of considering those as keywords, break down your topic into the varying parts of that, and then you can start using those keywords, because definitely you're going to have articles talking about infertility and women's mental health, but you could also find articles that specifically talk about very specific types of infertility and its effect on mental health. Just talking about pregnancy and mental health, you're going to have a lot of discussion of postpartum depression, looking at that one. And so postpartum is one word. The reason I keep on changing the spelling of things, one of that is my OCD as a grammar editor. The other reason is you want to spell things correctly when putting them in databases. Library resources are not Google, and if you misspell things, you're not going to come up with correct results typically. So be aware of your spelling. If Word is trying to help you, let it with that. So yeah, so you might want to break down what are we talking about with mental health. You could be talking If we're saying the effects of pregnancy and infertility on mental health, is what you're looking at your topics there, we'll kind of break down what are those effects, break down symptoms, break down depression, anxiety, stress with that, break down different symptoms, but you might want to look at different treatments for this, so you can expand this with your topic. Reason I strongly encourage you to take 5 to 10 minutes and write down some keywords is twofold. One, it helps you understand your topic better, and so it gives you better terms to search for when you're actually going to the databases. It also helps you that if you get stuck and you're not finding anything in the library resources with the keywords you're using, you already have a list of things that you can use to go around that block you've hit. So you have another path, so you're not just stuck at this wall and thinking, okay, well, I have to completely find a new topic. Probably not. You might just need to figure out which way you're looking at things. Another reason for this, it helps you remember it. How many times have you walked into a room and forgotten why you went there? All the time, right? It gets worse as you get older. That's where it does. Actually, writing this down, it helps you keep a record of it. Officially, it helps you keep start what scholars call a research log, to where you're recording what it is you're researching and how you're researching it, and then what you're finding and how you're going to use it. So jot this down, whether you do it in a Word doc like I did, and you can then save that to your desktop or save it to your Google Drive and have access to it anywhere. You put it on a Post-it note and stick it in your notes or your textbook, fine. Whatever works for you is fine. Do something. Sit down and think, okay, what are the main concepts that I'm researching? What are the main ideas within my topic? What would be direct one-for-one synonyms for this, so women versus female versus girl? What might be alternative terms for it, so mental health versus psychology? What might be, how might this topic be broken down into its parts? So infertility, inability to get pregnant, what are causes of infertility? You can then start kind of breaking those down and using those as keywords. Very important. I cannot stress it enough. 5 to 10 minutes. Think about your topic. Think about those things. These should also be flexible keywords. You're going to find, okay, I'm finding really great stuff with infertility, but I'm not really finding much with inability to get pregnant. And so sometimes you find some keywords are better than others. Some, you're getting great things with women, but you're also getting really great things with female. And so looking at your keywords like this and planning out, I am going to have to search in a variety of ways in the databases, prepares you for that. You're not going to be able to just do one search with your main concepts and find all of the information that is published out there. You're going to have to play around. I'm going to search it this way and get all of the information searching it this way. I'm then going to exchange one keyword out and try another way and see what information comes up that way. You have to play around with this. You're going to need to do multiple searches. Preparing for that in advance gets you in the right mindset, makes you anticipate that, because most of the time, you're going to find good information searching for it one way, you're going to find good information searching for it another. One final topic. So remember how I talked about that topic of heroin use and end-of-life treatment. So I bet the boy, when he came and asked for help, he didn't think he was going to be my example for the next several years. So I said that we needed to change out heroin for diamorphine, and so that was where I needed to go look up what is that chemical name for heroin. Another keyword we were having trouble with was the term end-of-life treatment. So when he first talked to me about this, he sent us this question via email. He really didn't explain what he meant by that. And so for end-of-life treatments, in my head, I was being very literal and thinking treatment to end your life, and was thinking on the topic of assisted suicide. Another term for that, academic term, would be euthanasia. Hopefully y'all have at least heard something on those topics before. Not a lot came up, but even when I switched it to diamorphine and assisted suicide, started getting some results. Everything that came up kept on talking about palliative care. I don't know if anyone knows what palliative care meant. I didn't know what it meant, but everything that would come up when I searched for diamorphine and euthanasia or assisted suicide talked about this term palliative care. So that should send up a red flag. If everything you're coming up is talking about this one idea that you haven't considered, you need to consider it. If everyone's talking about this, this somehow ties into your topic, and you might want to consider, okay, how is that relevant to my research topic? If, like I was in this situation, you don't know what that term means, you need to look it up. If it is coming up with this term or this keyword and you have no idea what it is, go back to Google, type it, copy and paste that into Google. Palliative care, when I looked it up, is a branch of medicine that deals with chronic and terminal illness, specifically in regards to pain management. So we have this heroin use, which is also known as diamorphine. The root of that word being morphine, which is a very potent, powerful painkiller that's used in hospitals when you're having major operations. So you tie it into this idea of pain management using illegal drugs as opposed to prescription medication of morphine. That was where, once we started using diamorphine and palliative care, results lit up like a Christmas tree. Suddenly the student had all of this peer-reviewed research he was looking for. We had to kind of play around and stumble onto it for that instant. Normally, that example is a pretty extreme one. Like when we typed in heroin and end-of-life treatments, I got absolutely zero search results. Got nothing. That is unusual. But this is a good example of I had to do a little bit of research to understand the topic, to be able to help the student and to be able to help him find the research he needed and find the keywords he needed to use. We also, our search changed a bit once we saw what information was out there. So pay attention to what's coming up. If other researchers, if articles and books are using a term to talk about your topic, you need to pay attention to what that is. So as you're researching, you probably will be able to add keywords and find, okay, this is what the actual scholars are using most of the time, and you can add that into your list. All right, anyone have any questions on keywords? I'll give you a minute to type them into the chat if you do. Okay, no questions I'm seeing pop up. If you have questions, that chat is available. I will be happy to stop and pause and answer your questions. All right, but moving on from Wikipedia, let's actually look at library resources. So coming back to this library homepage, in the center of the screen here, you have this banner for Ex Libris, Alma, and Primo. Click on that, and it is going to open up this Primo search engine that we have. So this is the library's new discovery tool. We just got it this past summer, so we've only had it this school year. What Primo is kind of almost perfect one-stop shopping for academic resources. There are a few things that don't get tied into Primo, but Primo ties together the library's physical resources with our catalog as well as all of our ebooks and about 80% of our electronic databases. So almost everything we have is in Primo. It's definitely where I suggest students start their searches. And so Primo is a really good tool. Start your search here. It's very natural language friendly. So it's kind of Google-like that you just type in your search terms and go. So let's see what we get with and mental health. Okay, so just type in your keywords, let it search. Sometimes it takes a second. All right, so you're noticing the first thing you get is this yellow banner asking you to sign in. Sign in. No matter if you are on campus or off campus, since most of you are off campus right now, you definitely have to sign in. That does change your search results. So we get about 3,100 results right now. If I sign in, so click that sign in. The sign in is the same thing as your campus login. So you got that shibboleth login screen. Go ahead and sign in. Let it resync. Give it a second to load. Let's take longer than a second. Okay, we changed 3,000 to nearly 43,000. So signing in, Primo wants you to prove that you're a current student before it gives you access to all of the library resources. This is especially important when you're off campus, that to be able to access library resources off campus, you do have to sign in so that we can prove that you're a current student. Our licensing agreements with our vendors that we get information from, only current students and faculty can use this off campus. So sign in, prove that you are a current student. So definitely take advantage of that. You also see once you signed in, you have your name up here in this top right corner. If you click on that, move the chat down, that submenu opens up. Your account in Primo is your library account. So if you currently have things checked out, it'll show you what you have checked out and when your loans are due back. If you have any requests, fines, or fees, it will tell you that as well. Also within this, you get your favorites. So if you go back to that menu, you can save things to your account in Primo, and we're going to talk about this more. So that way, most of the time when you're searching, you're like, okay, that looks interesting. I want to save it for later. I'm not going to stop and read this entire article or book right now. I'm going to save it and keep searching. Primo is really easy to do that you can save things to your favorites. You can then add labels to it. So you have this Add Labels button. And so this one was about color purple. I was helping another student find things. So it's kind of like adding stickers to it. You then have your sort by option over here on the right that you can sort by, I just want my articles I'm using for my Live 1000 class. That way, if you're working on multiple projects, you can sort them out. Things stay in your favorites until you decide to delete them. That's how I have 80 things tucked into my favorites right now. So it's a really easy way to organize your research, to be able to find things and save it all in one place. Questions so far? All right. You have questions? Let me know. Okay, going back to the search. All right, so infertility and mental health, definitely do spell things correctly. Like I said before, if you misspell items, typos happen to us all. If you misspell things, it might bring up a few things on your topic, but it's most likely going to bring up very weird results or results that have also misspelled the word. And we don't want people who can't proofread and do a spell check before they publish. So check your spelling. If you're not getting a lot of results or you're not getting results on your topic, that's probably the culprit. You can also limit not only by your keywords and what topic you're looking for, you can limit by your source type over here. So one thing that I would say is especially important for y'all right now is this available online. Currently, the library is still open, so the Held by Library link is how you can limit to things that the library actually owns in paper. So you have these two books that talk about infertility and mental health. If you wanted to come get them in print, you can do that. Most of y'all at the moment, though, are more looking at things you can access from off campus, so click that available online. It would knock anything that's in print out of your search. You can also limit by resource type. So are we looking for articles? Are we looking for books? Are we looking for book chapters? Most of our book collection actually now, and the biggest place our book collection has been growing in the past 5 years, is our ebooks. So ebooks are things that you can access them from anywhere. You have internet, they are completely free. We've already paid for them, so you can download and read the whole ebook. So you have this book by the World Health Organization of Mental Health Aspects of Women's Reproductive Health. Click on the title, you're going to get the item record. And so what the item record does is gives you more information of what is this book, who wrote it. You're going to get a description of what it's about. So I actually want to read that. To get to the full text, you have this full text availability link here in the center. And so it'll tell you which library database the book is available through. So click on that, and it's always going to open a new tab. Primo is a discovery tool. It's like a signpost showing you what the library has and where it's located. It actually will, you don't actually get the full text through Primo. It always connects you out to this other database. So once you're in this other database, occasionally, ProQuest is ProQuest eBook Central, so you get this title up here in the top left corner. Every now and then, I see it want to pop up with this search screen asking you which university you're with or which library you're with. If that pops up, search for University of North Carolina at Pembroke. It will then connect you to this ebook. Typically, you only have to do that once on the computer you're on, and it remembers it. Sometimes that pops up. Sometimes it takes you right to the book. I can never figure out which way it goes. But if you see that, it's asking you, say, which school or library are you with. Excuse me. Search for that University of North Carolina at Pembroke, and it will let you through. If it doesn't, that's when you contact the library and ask for help. And so you then see you have the option to read the book online. You have the option to download the entire book. eBook Central is one of our databases that to download the book, you do have to create an account. It is completely free to do that. You just got to create a username and password. It will let you decide how you want to download the ebook. So you can download it as a PDF that you're reading on your computer, but you can also download it as an EPUB document, which is something that you could read on something like a Kindle or a tablet e-reader, and so it's much easier to look at on those kind of mobile devices. So if you have a tablet or an e-reader or a Kindle or something like that, you can download most of these books as an EPUB, or you could scroll down to this table of contents and download one chapter at a time. I love that our ebooks allow you to skip ahead to chapters because lots of times you don't need the entire book. So one of my biggest complaints I hear students make on not wanting to use books in their research is that you have to read the whole book. And most professors' initial response is, oh, you poor babies, you have to read, yes, this is college, kind of deal. But the flip side of that is you might have a valid complaint. You're writing a 10-page research paper, you're taking 5 classes, you don't have time to read a 400-page book for your 10-page research paper. What I'm about to tell you, you are to take with a grain of salt and a very, very heavy dose of common sense. You are also never to go to any professor on this campus and tell them the librarian said I don't have to read the whole book. But maybe, sometimes, you might not have to read the entire book to be able to use the chapter that is on your topic. So if your topic was pregnancy and postpartum depression, you could read this chapter 2 on pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum period, and that is the book on your the chapter on your topic. You have a well-researched academic scholarly source that is giving you the information you need, and then you might not need to read all 10 chapters. Maybe we want to read the chapter 1 overview, so it gives you a good overview of what the entirety of the book is about, but read chapter 2 in depth, 20 pages. You then have a very good resource, and your professor's going to be impressed that you're using a book instead of just a article. So sometimes you might have 1 or 2 chapters out of the book that's really on your topic, and the rest of the book isn't. When that happens, read those 2 chapters. My encouragement here is sometimes you do have to read the whole book. If the whole book is on postpartum depression and that's what you're writing about, you would have to read the entirety of the book to get the information probably. You got to take this with a grain of salt, apply it to your situation. Another thing that's very common while I tell students this, with academic books, it is very common to see individual chapters written by unique authors. So instead of the entire book being written by one author or one set of authors, each chapter is written by different groups of people. So you're seeing this chapter 2 is written by Jane Fisher and these other 2 scholarly people that I'm not going to try and pronounce their names. So each chapter, when you're seeing books like this, many times the chapters are articles or essays on a topic, and they can be read independently of the rest of the book. That you don't need to read the chapter before the chapter after it to be able to understand chapter 2 in context. So you see that very commonly. So my encouragement, don't leave ebooks out of your research. Don't leave physical books out of your research typically, but they can provide you with really good information. They can provide you with solid foundational information. Lots of times students come asking for articles, and I'm like, you really need a book with this. So take a look at those, play with them with it. If you have questions on finding ebooks, definitely do come ask the librarian. But yeah, all of those that say available online, they are things you can access the full text of the ebook from anywhere. Questions on ebooks? I'm going to keep going. If you have a question on the ebook, pop that into the chat. Another thing, so coming back, so taking out that ebook limiter, you can also limit by peer-reviewed. And Tegan, do they have to have peer-reviewed resources for this paper?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm. We went over that, everybody, right?
Hmm?
We went over that in class, but we might need to do a little review. Yep, yes, P says yes, we did go over it in class.
Does everything have to be peer-reviewed, or?
It should be a good mix, so most things. Yeah, so and it also depends on the topic. You know, some things like for Rachel's topic on a good book, there might be something in a non-peer-reviewed, like in the New Yorker or something like that.
Okay.
You know, that would make sense for your topic, you know, but at least a lot of the sources should be peer-reviewed, yeah.
Okay, definitely. Okay. So coming back to this availability and peer-reviewed delimiter. So peer-reviewed, I'm sorry, the train is going past it. That's interrupting. I'm going to let it stop honking its horn. I'm stuck on campus. All right, horn is passed. Okay. So limiting to peer-reviewed. Peer-reviewed is a label that is applied to academic journals. And so I do think you probably went over it in your class with Tegan, but what peer-reviewed means is that before a journal article was published, other experts within the subject area anonymously reviewed the work, and they took a look at where the person got their information, how did they set up their research study, made sure they didn't do step A, B, and C and get result Z way out in left field. And so all of that is then tied into a review that they pass the author. Lots of times they ask that the author make revisions to the article before it gets published and things like that. So it is a way of fact-checking and adding credibility to research. However, the only thing in library resources that are ever going to be labeled peer-reviewed is journal articles only. So if you limit to peer-reviewed, we're seeing with this resource type that books is not an option. All of our books are not going to be labeled as peer-reviewed. Now, some scholarly books, so things that are coming out of university presses, that are coming out being published by Springer or Wiley or Reuters or things like that, that are these scholarly academic presses, many times they go through a peer-reviewed process, but they don't get the sticker label saying that it's peer-reviewed. So keep that in mind that if you're limiting to peer-reviewed, you're going to be getting scholarly journal articles only. It's also going to leave out anything like newspaper articles or popular magazines. So she mentioned for this person's topic on what makes a good book, the New Yorker is a very credible, well-respected magazine. It's considered a popular magazine. It's not going to be scholarly. It's not going to be peer-reviewed. It's written for the general public so anyone can pick it up and understand it. Could be great information for your paper topic, but it's not going to have that peer-reviewed label. So this is something that I would encourage you to do a search with this peer-reviewed only label and get that scholarly academic info. But depending on your topic, you also could find very credible stuff without that peer-reviewed research label. So play around with it. This is where you got to do multiple searches and see what comes up available to you. And so you're also seeing, let me make this a little bit, I cannot, sorry. Okay, I was going to see if I could increase my screen size, but I can't do that when I'm apparently sharing the screen. So you do see, you have this little purple icon that says peer-reviewed under the article info, so that is telling you that the article has come from a peer-reviewed journal. Access to these articles, scroll down, you get more information about what it is. You get your full text availability within the, this full text option. This is one that you may notice under here. So it's coming from this journal database called Free eJournal. And so it is then going to give it a second to load. This is one that occasionally we see this. Our goal with Primo is when you click on that database link, it's going to take you directly to the article. Some of them take you to the journal homepage. So it came out of this Virility and Sterility journal. And so you need to go back to this item record in Primo and look at, okay, which specific issue, volume, issue, and page number did this come out of? So this came out of September 2015, 104, volume 3. And so then you can kind of go down that table of contents for the journal, go to your specific issue and the impact of fertility. And typically I just kind of scroll down until I see my article title. It has a lot in there. In here somewhere. Okay, the impact of insurance mandates, which is not what I want. Okay, so sometimes you can't, you do need to scroll down. Other times, let me see if there's a search bar up at the top. You could kind of skip ahead, or you could search for that article title on this page, and it would probably take you there faster if you're not having trouble getting to it. But what I was trying to point out about this, so you see under the free e-journals, you have this note that this journal is available from 1950, volume 1, so we have it going all the way back to the beginning, but the most recent 2 years not available. We see this sometimes. It's not every journal, but some of the journals have this limit of, most of the time it's most recent 6 months or most recent year is not available online. That's officially called an embargo, and what that means is the publisher of this journal is saying academic library databases can't have this electronically until after a year that it's come out in print. So this is where you would need to go back up here to this date that is published and look at, okay, this is 2015, 5 years ago, you're fine. But if that was published in 2019, you wouldn't have the access to full text. And so you need to kind of, if you're seeing that embargo, make sure your date lines up within the embargo and the date range options. So if you see that, definitely take a look. All right. Questions? I normally say questions in class, but hopefully if y'all have questions, you're putting them in the chat over here. Final thing you can limit to that students normally do is this limit by publication date. So most professors, many of them have limits within their assignment saying you have to have things published within the last 10 years or something like that. If your professor ever says that, you can change this date. So instead of coming from 1910, we want things published since 2010, and click refine, and then that's going to weed out anything from your search list that was published earlier than 2010. That can be helpful for some topics. Other topics can branch out beyond that. Going back to this example of person's topic of what makes a good book, yes, more current information is going to be valuable to you, but you could have articles going back 50, 100 years about what makes popular reading, and so you could do a historic comparative. If your topic has any sort of historical component to it, adding in limiting by date range might not be helpful to you. General rule of thumb, if your professor is saying you have to have current research and things published within the past 3 to 5 years, 10 at most for something considered current. But that kind of depends on your topic as to whether or not you want to throw that out the window. History throws that out the window, definitely. So if you're looking at historic topics, things published in the last 10 years would probably not be wholly relevant to you. So you can add that, but that is an option. All right. Questions at all? No immediate thing. Okay. So last thing I want to show you today is how to save research as you're going. So if you're looking at this article in Fertility and Mental Health, and you're like, okay, this looks really interesting, I want to save it and read it later, you have this little pen icon up here in the top right corner, and that is what saves this article to your favorites. So you're seeing that if you went to your favorites up here at the top, going back to that submenu, that article is now saved to your favorites. If you want to delete it, you would just uncheck that pen again. So that way you can log into Primo, save things, be able to come back to them all in one place and look at your research later. Other helpful things, you can email stuff to yourself, or if you were kind of questioning, if you're ever working in a group project or you need to send it to your professor and say, is this article okay? You can just type in an email address there and hit send. If you're sending it to someone else, I would let them know. These emails come from discovery at Sleeper's group is the email address it comes from. So if you're seeing that show up, what it's going to do is provide you information about this article as well as a link to get back to this page where you can then access the full text. Finally, you have this citation builder function. So I'm assuming, are y'all using APA or MLA for this class? APA, okay. Either, okay. Well, if you were allowed to use either, for your paper you need to pick one citation style and stick with it. Your professor is very nice that she's letting you choose either. So you have, when you're pulling this up, you have different citation styles over here, so make sure you're choosing the one appropriate to you. What this does is it takes the bibliographic info for this article of who wrote it, what's the article title, what's the journal information, where was it published, yada yada. If it has a DOI or a URL, what is that number as well? It then has a blank field of what a correct APA citation should look like, and the database copies and pastes this bibliographic info into this citation form and gives you a citation. The idea is you could copy and paste that into your works cited. Hooray. I use this all the time. The downside to this, you're seeing underneath here, you have this note, remember to check citations for accuracy before including them in your work. The reason for that, anytime you're getting a citation out of Primo, out of a library database, or you're using a citation builder like EasyBib or something like that, they are created by computers. Computers can make mistakes, and they do not know when they made a mistake. So when you're proofreading this, you need to proofread to, one, make sure all of the content is there. Primo is going to pull what information it has. So if the metadata went in badly up here and the library record is going to be bad in the citation. So I have seen things not have correct authors. I've seen things not pull, it would pull the journal title but not have that volume and issue and page number that is required. If you click on the full text, the information is going to be there in the full text of the article, but it's not going into the Primo created citation. So you need to make sure that all the components of your citation are there. No matter which citation style you're using, all citations have 5 basic elements. It has who, what, when, where, and how did you get there. So who is your author? What is the title of it? What was the date it was published? Where was it published? For books, that's going to be a publishing company. For journal articles, that's going to be the journal title, volume, issue, and page number. For websites, if you're creating this on your own, that's going to be the website title. And then the how did you access it. So that's when you pull in this DOI link, or if it has a DOI number. If it's a website, you need to pull in the URL that's up here in the address bar. So you get that electronic access to it. 5 basic components, make sure you have them. You then want to look at, is the formatting correct? So most of the time, if this is going to make a mistake, it's in formatting. Is the author formatted correctly? That is last name, comma, first initial for APA? Is the date in the right order? Is it capitalized correctly? Is the journal title italicized correctly? Those kind of things. Look at capitalization, italics, and punctuation. Most of the time is where you see the errors the most. Also, another thing that sometimes disappears as you're copying and pasting it is this hanging indent. So you see how the second line is tabbed over from the first? That is called a hanging indent, so that the author stands out when you're creating that bibliography of list of citations. Sometimes when you copy and paste, that goes away, so you'll need to add that back in. So make sure you're keeping the formatting this here. Citation builders can be a great tool, but if you don't know how to cite, you don't know what a correct APA citation is or what a correct MLA citation looks like, you shouldn't be using this. The only way to learn how to cite is to do it by hand over and over until you can do it in your sleep. You're cheating yourself by looking at these because you're not going to be able to tell what is correct. Other times, you can pull up your citation guide. So if you have one that's a physical book or you're using those APA or MLA OWL websites, you have never seen those are your best friends of APA OWL, where they also do MLA version at Purdue University's Online Writing Lab. And so they give you the basics of here's how you do in-text citations, here's how you do your reference list for various source types. So kind of giving you that example of here's what a book citation looks like. And so you could pull that up and then compare, okay, yes, this is correct, or I need to make changes. But take citation builders with a grain of salt and make sure you proofread. Make sure all of that content info is there. All right. I think that's kind of all I wanted to cover today. I know we got about 15 minutes left. On Thursday, I'm going to go into other electronic resources for the library. But does anyone have any questions right now? I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Anyone have questions? Oh, you're welcome. Anyone have questions for Dr. Decker as well? Now would be a good time possibly to ask her what you.
Yeah, I'll just jump in here and say, and I know you guys have all looked at Canvas and probably seen what we're working on, which is the annotated bibliography. And I hope I put enough information on Canvas so that you can get a good idea of what that is. So we have the assignment that I wrote, as well as the chapter in our book, as well as I put a web resource which even has a downloadable template so that you can know kind of the format of this assignment, which is different than the regular paper with paragraphs and all that. So just make sure that you look at all that. And so we'll have this week, working as we are now with Laura in the library, and that's a great time to let Laura or I know if you're having trouble finding information on your topic. That seems to be the biggest issue right now, is at this stage where you are, is like, oh, I'm looking and I can't find anything. Sometimes I don't find out about that until like a week or two later. It's like, why didn't you say something when we were all doing that? So right now, right at this moment, what I would suggest that you do is search for your topic, just as Laura described, and if you have any questions like, what was that first button I'm supposed to push, or something like that even, to let us know. And if you're having any trouble along the way, you can contact one of us. And then next week we'll be doing like very short, small peer review. And what I mean by small is you won't have to have very much done. So on Tuesday you just have a little bit done of the annotated bibliography. Thursday a little bit more done, and then it won't be due until the following Sunday. So we'll have a lot of time to do it. However, it's 15 sources, so you'll need to have gathered quite a few sources along the way. So you definitely want to start now. Elizabeth, you lucked out because you already have many sources that Laura just found for you. But you can see how that works. If you get Laura on the case, you can really get a lot of information quickly if you're having a hard time finding yourself. So any questions for me at this time? And I'll be around, of course, via email, or if you want to set up an actual WebEx meeting with me, that's easy enough to do. So I think we'll be okay communication-wise, but just make sure that if you're having any trouble, it's hard for me to know because I won't be seeing you as much in the classroom, but just make sure that you contact me and if you're having any doubts or issues at all, okay? All right, so that's all I have. So we'll just tune in, I guess, next Thursday, same way. This seemed to work really well, so for setting that up. I was a little worried about it because I've never had a whole class on WebEx, but it's nice to see that you're all at least here. Most of you are here, and we'll be publishing this on YouTube, a YouTube link soon. So I'll be putting that on Canvas as well, for if you want to look at it again, or if you didn't get the whole thing. And also a couple people weren't able to make it. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna put my mic back on mute. So.
All right, well, if no one has any questions, like she said, I will be sending her this video link so she can add it to your Canvas course so you can come back and chat. And I do remind you, the library is available 8 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday, via email. We have that chat box on our homepage on the bottom right, and we have that link on our homepage for our WebEx chat room. So don't hesitate, librarians are here. We are happy to help you. So if you're kind of struggling on what do I look for with my topic or where to go, definitely reach out to us, and we're happy to help you search.
All right, thanks, and bye, everybody.
All right, thank you.